Well, hello and welcome to Knife Delights, folks. We're out here on the observation deck. It's an absolutely beautiful late fall morning. It's about the third week of November. Got Thanksgiving coming up. It's gorgeous. We've got the sun shining. There's no wind. It's in about the mid 30s, so it's a little brisk, but that's all right for this time of year. It's still pretty warm. Dare I say it's a delightful day out here today? Well, listen. The purpose of this video here today is to talk about some first aid topics, some preparedness type topics, which will include some preparations for wintertime for when you're traveling in your vehicle. And I want to thank Ken over at The Cutting Edge, formerly known as Last Chance Knives. Ken just recently did a video on how to prepare a personal individual first aid kit, and he's got some wonderful thoughts, and I just loved his presentation. So I'm going to link that video in the description box below. I encourage everybody to take a look at that. I want to focus on something just a little bit different. His focus was, again, on a little individual kit for when you're out hiking and things like that, or going on a long-term trek for emergency preparedness. What I'm talking about today has more to do with a vehicle, having things in your vehicle close by, and just in case of an emergency, you've got some supplies with you. So I've got 3 or 4 different systems here that I'm going to go through. I'm not asking anyone to try to duplicate what I have done. I'm showing you these things to give you some ideas to get your mind, thinking about emergency preparedness, especially during the winter months for us up north, although it does apply for everyone around the country. So give me just a minute, we'll get the camera set up and we'll get into this. As I said in the opening, I've got about 4 different levels of preparedness for first aid, from something very simple over here to very complex over here on the right. So I'll move the camera over here so we can take a closer look at some of these systems. Okay, first off, this is just a little simple plastic container. I think I got this at Hobby Lobby. I like it because it's got 2 different compartments to it. And this could be used for a day hike or if you're out with the family. And we'll get into this. But this is something, and you can build things and put things in here the way you want to. But just for some examples, I wear glasses, so it's nice to have a lens cleaner with me. I've got a nice little pocket knife there, the little Swiss Army knife there with the scissors. Alcohol pad, got some wet ones there. And when you're buying these things, I don't like buying the little pack where you pull the tab back, pull one out, and then try to close it back up, because they will dry out. I like to buy these individual ones. They're less prone to dry out. However, with all of these supplies, you do want to check them, because if you keep them in the car, especially in the heat of the summer, things will dry out over time. So you do want to check your supplies. Another idea, you can buy these little tubes of Vaseline. So in the winter time, you can put this on your lips. If you're out in the cold and your lips get really chapped, or anything else gets really chapped, you got just a little bit of Vaseline with you. Here's a couple of the little face cleaners that the ladies like to use. You can put a couple of those in there. You can always put a little Vaseline on one of those, and you got a good fire starter. And I do like putting things like this into these little individual bags, because if you happen to be outside and it's raining and you take your lid off to get something out, the rain can get down in there. So this still keeps it dry even though it's raining. Of course, you can carry some lip balm or chapstick. There's a Band-Aid. So folks, there's just, the sky's the limit on what you can put into these. Now, what's handy about these is if you are going out on a day hike, maybe in a state park, maybe you're taking some kids with you and they've got their own backpacks, you can get one of these things and you can individualize it for each one of your children to put in their backpack. You can always put a couple pieces of hard rock candy in there. You know, you get hungry or something, it's always nice to have something. You fool yourself that you're eating by just having a piece of rock candy in there. You could make one like a emergency fishing kit. You can make one an emergency fire starter kit, and one more first aid related. And you can put one of these in each one of the kids' backpacks and say, okay, you're responsible for maintaining this first aid kit, or you're responsible for maintaining the fire starter kit. You know, it teaches the kids some responsibility, and makes them feel grown up, and it teaches them to think about first aid and emergency preparedness. Okay, for me, this is kind of like a secondary first aid kit or emergency supply kit. It contains some extra things that I don't have, they kind of duplicate what I have in my first aid bags. But this is a plastic ammo box, and you get them at Walmart. I think they're $11 or $12. I like them because they're lightweight. There is a seal on there, so it'll keep things dry down inside. So again, if you're in an emergency situation, you're outdoors and you're out in the rain, it's nice to have something like this. Also, if you keep it in your car, if you get in an accident and this goes flying through the vehicle, if you get hit with this, it's it's not going to be good, but it's not going to be as dangerous as having like a metal ammo box with the sharp corners and the metal. So it's a little bit safer. And then I did kind of mark it here again. And the purpose of that is, say you're in an accident, you're incapacitated, you can always tell, you know, a good Samaritan that stopped by, hey, I've got an orange box with first aid stuff in it. And it's readily identifiable. So, just little things. Now here's a rescue knife. You can find these for probably $10 or $15 at various places. I don't know. I want to test these out someday to see how well they work, but something's better than nothing usually. So you got a seatbelt cutter and a glass breaker, a serrated blade there, partially serrated. This one does have a little flashlight, although I think the battery's dead. So, you know, it doesn't hurt to have like a rescue knife. Of course, we got this here if you're having to do CPR. I can get it open here. Listen to those birds. Well, this isn't good. You should be able to open it quickly. Wow, I can't get the silly thing open. Ha! Anyway, I got some Q-tips, a sterile pad, a lighter. I like carrying these in the winter time, and we're going to get into winter preparedness. I'll put a date on there of when I put these in there, because these will eventually dry out and expire, so you want to keep new ones. This is a good reminder for me to get some of these hand warmers. And I want to go over these later. I have some personal experience. Here's a little thing with some band-aids in it. Extra pair of scissors, clothing scissors, tape. Here's a inexpensive Ozark Trail knife. Again, this is just kind of all backup stuff. So there's all kinds of things. Oh, here's a flashlight. Of course, you always want to check and make sure it's working. Always want to check the batteries. So, again, you can put whatever you want into a box like this. Okay, this is why I couldn't get it open. I was just trying to pull it apart. But on this one, you got this little thing here. You pull up on it there, and then it opens. See, this is why it's good to get this stuff out, because in the heat of the moment and you're excited and everything, yeah, seconds matter. So again, here's this. It's got the instructions on how to use it. You do have to check these. They will dry out. and get brittle. So there's there, showing you how to give breaths. Very handy to have. Okay, so here's a small first aid bag that I bought back in my patrol days, and I carried this in my patrol vehicle. I referred to it as my blood bag because I have this one kind of set up specifically for bleeding and blood related matters, gunshot wounds and things like that. But you can get a bag like this and put anything you want into it. The big thing is you have a tendency of, well, I need this, and you overstuff them and you make them too heavy, and then you can't find anything because the pockets are so full. So just a little word of caution. So up here, this is what they call it, an IPOC, but individual police officer kit, I guess. Individual patrol officer kit. Same thing as an IFAC. You can buy these on the commercial market, and you're going to have some sort of a tourniquet. You're going to have probably some trauma dressing with the blood clotting material in it and things like that. Now these things do expire, but I would not ever throw this away because you can always open this up and use it for training. So okay, so I had that and some more trauma dressing and an emergency bandage, big one. So again, this one was totally set up. All kinds of things here. Another emergency bandage. That's what's all down in here, the bandages. Down here in the bottom zipper, there's some antibacterial cream, a hand wipe, a sling or triangular bandage, some tape. Got my little Gerber pocket knife or spare knife, and there is another pair of scissors in here. So, but you can take a small bag like this, again, fix it up, put in here what you think you need. But again, always check your supplies and make sure they're not expired and or that things haven't dried out. Okay, so this is the most complex system right here, and this one is an actual, like a professional kit. This is something you an EMT or a paramedic might carry in their car. Now, as a peace officer, I was in a rural area, and sometimes we had long ambulance waits. So I did go and get certified as a first responder, one level just below an EMT, so that I could provide some emergency care while waiting for the ambulance to get there. I'm no longer certified, so don't take any of this as medical advice or first aid advice. Go out and get proper training. But I still carry this in the car, and if you can afford it, I would suggest you get something like this. It might not have to be this complex, but again, I'm just going off of experience. There are times when there are so many things going on that ambulances are busy and an ambulance can't get there quickly, or there may be a multiple car pile up and there's multiple victims. You have an EMT happen to be traveling along, they stop to render aid, they run out of supplies in their bag. You've got a bag here you can hand to them, because some of this stuff you're not qualified or you're not going to know how to use, but they know how to use it. So it just never hurts to have extra supplies with you, and this is just stays in the car pretty much. So again, lots of different pouches. These come kind of pre-packed, but you can buy a bag and buy a lot of individual things to put in here if you wanted to. So it is complex. Something like this, I know this is innocuous, but that's one of those little things for babies. Something I learned in my training is newborns, the infants, do not learn how to breathe out of their mouth until they're about 6 months old. So if you come across a baby and their nose is plugged and they can't breathe, you got something to clear their nose out with. Cheap. I mean, $1 or $2 for something like that. Here's more of the professional things. And these you insert into somebody's mouth when they're unconscious. That helps open up the airway. You're not going to be qualified in knowing how to use them. But again, an EMT shows up and they ran out of supplies. They know what to do with these things if you have them. I carry a little thing of the low-dose aspirin for someone with heart conditions. Here's another one of those masks here for emergency breathing. Closed up again. You'll notice I put some cordage on these little things. Folks, when you're in an emergency, you know, your heart's pumping, your adrenaline's going, and you lose your dexterity. So it's nice to have something big to grab a hold of to open that up. Send some first aid tape in here. Pretty much all we have there. Then you've got a big pocket back here, and you can keep all kinds of stuff back here. Like here, one of the great big dressings. More and more gauze and things like that down in here. Okay, here's the main case here. And it opens up. So you can see on this side all the different kind of bandages, dressings and things like that. Over on this side, you can see some of the things we have there. And there's some of those Purell wipes, cat tourniquet. Got a nice little Maglite flashlight there down in this pouch. I do have an emergency fix blade down in here just to have something. And right here, I got this. They were having a clearance on these several years ago. Here's a set of shearers from CRKT, and these are heavy duty. I mean, these are heavy duty shearers. Undo the lock there. You see there, you got a seatbelt cutter there. You got heavy shearers there. You can see that's kind of serrated or toothy there for cutting through clothing, heavy clothing. This right down here is a little that fits on an oxygen tank. You can turn it on or off. So just a fantastic tool to have. Again, some more of those hand warmers in this package. We got tweezers, more different types of scissors. This is you can buy these, and these are like a single-use flashlight. You just pop it, and you'll see them use them in the ambulances or sometimes in the ER. It's just a single-use thing, so you can buy some of those disposable flashlights. And again, personal protection there, and I got blood pressure cuff and stethoscope in there. So again, you might not be using that stuff, but it's sure handy to have on the scene in the case of a multi-car pile up or some other event, tornado, whatever. And medical supplies might be in short supply. Okay, just to wrap things up here, I do have this rescue tool made by Victorinox. It's pricey. It's a little over $100, but it is a heavy-duty rescue knife. I won't go through all of the features of it. I've done a separate video on this if you want to see the review on this rescue knife. But it does come in a pouch, so you can wear it on your belt. I take this to work with me every day and have this with me. And if I'm going on a long trip, I've got it in the car with me. Very, very good investment right there. We'll take just a brief minute here. I want to go over, it is wintertime now. Blizzards will be coming up north here. Although this does pertain to those that live in a more mild climate, shall we say. You know, even when I lived down in Texas, you could have days down into the 30s and cold rain. So when you get wet, you get cold, you get hypothermia. So whether it's cold rain or blizzards, you need to be prepared for the cold. So some of the items I keep in my vehicle is I have a snow shovel in there. If you skid off the road or somebody skid off the road or you get stuck, you've got a way to scoop yourself out. I carry extra warm blankets in there. Again, if you get stuck in the snow or stalled or you just happen to, you have to pull over because of the visibility, you run out of gas, which always keep your gas tank topped off in the wintertime. You know, you've got some extra blankets there to help keep warm. I also have a bag that I keep some extra gloves in. Out here in the rural areas, we have farm and home stores. You might have one near you. Usually they have, I call them farmer's gloves, but you can buy like a stack of 10 of them. They're banded together. A stack of 10 of them for, you know, $5 or something like that. Get some of those and throw it into that bag. If you run across somebody that's cold and then went in the ditch or what have you, you got a pair of cheap gloves you can hand to them, get their hands warm again. Of course, I got some extra hand warmers in there and actually some of the bigger feet warmers in there. I have extra pairs of old socks. And I'm going to bring up a little story on that. Back in the peace officer days, I got called out into the county. A young gal had went into the ditch and it was below 32 degrees, but we were getting rain, sleet, snow mix. And if you've ever driven in that stuff, it is very, very slick. Well, she skidded off the road a little bit and got stuck, couldn't get back up onto the road. She had a coat, but her shoes, well, she was wearing cowboy boots, but no socks. And so she'd been outside the vehicle, you know, trying to get herself unstuck. Well, those boots soaked through. Her feet were wet. She had no socks. And it had been about 30 minutes before I got out to her. And quite frankly, I'm surprised she didn't end up with some frostbite on her feet. But I was able to get those cold boots off of her. I had those nice warm socks for her to put on. And then one of the foot warmers. She could put her feet together. We wrapped a little blanket around and got her feet warmed up again. So, folks, be prepared in the wintertime. The excuse I hear a lot is, well, I've got a cell phone. Well, as an former emergency responder, I can tell you a cell phone doesn't do any good. A, if you're in an area where there's no reception, or B, the conditions are so bad that the responder can't even get to you, or it takes forever to get to people. I had one instance where I had to go rescue someone. It was 5 miles out on the highway west of town, 60-mile-an-hour winds and a foot of powdery snow, absolutely no visibility. It took me an hour and a half to go that 5 miles to get out to them. So you just never know. You just never know. Be prepared. Stock extra items. You can buy like little Cliffs bars and things like that to put in there so you have a little something to eat. Again, some hard candy or something like that. The hand and feet warmers, I just can't stress enough. You can actually take one of those if you're really cold. When you get cold, one thing the body does is it takes your blood and it puts it down into your chest cavity because it got to keep the vital organs warm. So you can take a hand warmer and put it on your chest and bundle it up, and just having that extra heat on your chest, will help keep you warm, because then the body can send out the warm blood to other extremities. So just some thoughts. Again, just some advice, just something to get you thinking about your travel conditions. We live in a fast-paced world, and, well, sorry, I'm going to go into my grumpy grandpa mode here. We're not teaching our children. We are not teaching our children and grandchildren about emergency preparedness. We're not teaching them about, especially in the wintertime, what can happen. I see school kids driving to school in the morning from town to town, and they've got short pants on, flip-flops, and a light blast jacket on, and it's 10 below out, and the snow's flying. What happens if they get stuck? Okay, end of Grumpy Grandpa. Teach your children and grandchildren. Be safe out there, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks once again to Ken for spurring this video on. And again, I'll put a link to his video down below. He has some excellent information. So yes, now go out and have yourselves, you know it, a very delightful day.